Welcome to another episode of Same Page. We are your hosts, Sarah Simagist.
And Lina Simagist.
Today we have Melissa and Larry with us as guests. Thank you so much for accepting to join our show today. We're super excited about the conversation we're going to have. I think it's going to give a lot of people some good insights about just real estate investing and renovations in particular. So I'm super excited about this conversation. We met you guys through a mastermind last year in 2020. And I just find that how interesting it is how a relationship or a friendship can grow so fast, like, you know, when you have similar goals, right? So
So I'm just
going to ask you just to introduce yourselves to the viewers.
Yeah, for sure. Like you mentioned, thank you so much, like Sarah and Leonard, for having us. So my name is Melissa. I was born and raised in Ottawa. Coincidentally, that's where you guys are at.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Waterloo in 2012 to study at the University of Waterloo. I studied math and business there. I did a lot of activities there, such as like dancing. I did a lot of like hip hop dancing and also traveling during my times when I was in university. Then right after university, I went straight to working a full-time job at Manulife. So I am still there. It's been 3 years as a data analyst.
Okay.
And that's kind of where I'm at right now. And I guess on my spare time, we like to play badminton together. I think that's one of our hobbies. And I love reading. And then I also just love whiteboards. Like, I don't know if you love whiteboards, but I love writing on whiteboards, you know, those brain dumps.
It doesn't matter what, you just write on whiteboard.
Yeah, it's literally just connect dots.
Tic-tac-toe.
She's definitely the planner.
And yourself, Larry? Tell our audience about yourself.
Yeah, so for me, I was actually from Calgary originally.
Okay.
I came here for school as well. Like Melissa, after graduating, instead of going to full-time work like she did, I returned back to school. So right now I'm a full-time student. I am just finishing up the last year of my doctorate degree in engineering.
Very nice.
Very cool.
And then, you know, that's pretty much what I'm spending most of my waking moments doing. And then, like her, I really do like investing. I do a bit of stock investing as well as, just real estate investing. And lately I've been getting into like programming. So creating like automation tools in particular. So that's pretty interesting.
All right. So you mentioned investing. So how did you guys get into real estate investing?
I guess like the whole journey started about, I think, in 2018. It was honestly all an accident, but it was like almost like a tragic event, but it was a blessing at the same time. So my parents did reach out to me. They had some questions and some concerns with like their mortgage. And so they reached out to me because I had still a full-time job. So, you know, with a full-time, you could definitely qualify for more. So at that point in life, I tried looking at, you know, what a mortgage is, you know, because we just graduated. So we're like, what the heck is a mortgage?
Yeah.
What's interest? Like, okay, we knew what interest was, but like compounding and how it all worked. And I think from there, I started seeing like these ads on Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think it was because I was like Googling about mortgages the whole time that it popped up. And for some reason, I decided to like read the book. And I think that really did change like my perspective of just finances, real estate, and like not living the 9-to-5 life, because I think before that I was into like the 9-to-5 until 65 and then volunteer and live life. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where my pivot changed. And from there, we went to like the Key Spire events.
Okay.
The free one first, of course. I remember that day where like the morning of, and it was like pouring rain. And I remember Larry saying like, yo, do we have to go to this event? Because it's like raining, right? It's free. No one wants to do those. And I think like the fact that we just ended up going was like the best decision also, just because, you know, if we didn't, who knows where we would have been if we ever would have went into real estate at that point. And then from there, we went to their 3-day event, like they do, you know, like all the the memberships and everything. We didn't do the membership just because we wanted to use that money for our down payment. We ended up, I think, a month after going to the weekend event, we found a realtor literally on Google. We were like, okay, Kitchener, realtor duplex conversion. That is because that's what we wanted to do, duplex conversion so that we could house hack it.
Okay.
Yeah. And then from there, we got the realtor, bought a property within pretty quick, actually. I think we only looked at less than 8 houses and we're like, yeah, we'll buy that one.
Okay.
So we didn't really know at that point what analysis paralysis was, which I think was a good and a con, I guess. And then we bought our first property, and that would be 2019 of May.
Okay. 2019 of May. Well, that's actually very recent. I'm a true believer that it's like if you have a thought and you want to do it, just do it. It might not fall perfectly. However, I think you're further along if you actually take the step and do it and just learn from your mistakes than if you have that paralysis analysis where you're thinking about it for months and then you make a decision and then you're probably thinking about the decision after you've made the decision, right? So I love it when people are like, oh yeah, we just went and did it. So talk to us a little bit about that experience. So first of all, you found a realtor on Kijiji.
Yes.
On Google, sorry. On Google. Okay. So I'm going to assume, was this a good experience for you guys or how did that turn out for your relationship with that realtor? Did you feel like he served you properly, I guess?
I'd say the realtor was actually really good. He showed us around some of his properties. He was doing the duplex conversion as well, and we kind of got to see what it was like, especially because we had never done any kind of renovations before. We had never bought a property, right? So this was just pretty good experience in general. He was also the type of person who, when we went to properties, he'd be like, this one doesn't look like this. You can do a duplex conversion with, and then the next one would be maybe the ceiling heights were too low. So he helped us a lot with regards to actually finding that property. But like you said, we still took action very quickly. I think it was fewer than 8 that we looked at, and then we were like, all right, let's put an offer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you guys know anything about zoning at that time?
I don't think I knew.
Yeah, I don't think we knew. So. We kind of just trusted our real estate agent in helping us with that. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So 2019 May, you bought your first property, duplex conversion. Walk us through the steps of what that was going to look like, what you had planned for the properties. If you're okay sharing numbers as well, just tell us a little bit what happened with that property.
Yeah, I guess numbers. We are numbers people. So let me just pull out my trusty spreadsheet here.
Your whiteboard right behind the computer.
Oh yeah, where's that whiteboard? So we bought the property, as we've mentioned, in May 2019 for $390,000.
Okay, that's pretty good.
So when we got quotes, one of our quotes for the renovations that we moved forward with was $80,000 to do the duplex conversion. So that brought us to $470,000, and then we were planning to refinance it for $550,000. That was what it was going for roughly for duplex conversions at that time. So we did the 80% loan to value, and then when we calculated it, we would have had only $30,000 in the property after refinancing, which was we're yo, that's pretty good. Though we didn't know if we would qualify for $550,000 at that time, but we're that's a future kind of issue in that right? And then for our numbers for cash flow purposes, we were thinking of renting the upstairs for around $1,600 and the basement for $1,500. We would be still paying rent to ourselves because we wanted to make sure, hey, we're still taking in those rents, and if we move out, we could still rent it to other people. And then those expenses, we did the property tax, insurance, maintenance of 7%, utilities, internet. We didn't include property management just because we were living in there or planning to live in there. We did do a vacancy of 5% and then just gifts. So that kind of left us with let me see, $210.48.
Okay.
It's not too much, but I think for us, we were pretty happy with that. And then we were like, oh, well, there's also like the principal recapture that we would get at that time. And then, passive appreciation of Kitchener. This was us back then, this is us in our spreadsheet. We're like, oh yeah, so our totals returns would be like 74%. And we're like, yeah, that sounds great, like 74%. And I think that's what like kind of helped us pull the trigger at that point. We're like, this makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. And where did you learn to calculate all this? You said you went to Keyspire. Was that where you learned to crunching these numbers?
Yeah, so a lot of it was Keyspire, and the other was just YouTube.
Yeah, definitely YouTube. Matt McKeever, Matt Cliche. It was a lot of just okay, how are they calculating all this cash flow?
Okay, so very resourceful. Yeah. So you mentioned $210. Was that just to clarify? Was that what you had to pay out of pocket yourself per month?
That would be our cash flow in total.
Oh, your cash flow. Okay, awesome. And that's with you paying yourself. And in case you moved out, that would be the actual cash flow sort of thing.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, awesome. So you crunch these numbers. You're like, okay, we're buying this. You buy this property. And now I'm assuming you're starting the renovations to convert it.
Yeah, that's the
so this is actually
the fun part.
A very long story. So currently we're still doing the renovations for this one project.
And for the record, we are February 2021.
Yes.
Yeah. That's fine, just for the timeline.
Yeah. So long story short, what happened was we ended up getting two separate contractors, and we had to fire them both because they couldn't get the work done. So our first contractor, which we started with in May of 2019, he was actually a referral. And what we liked about him was like he had a really good price, and he was also giving us a relatively good like design, and we liked what he was going to do with the property essentially. But as we like started doing construction with them, we started to notice that he was taking a lot of shortcuts, and he was doing a lot of like shady stuff. So for example, he wasn't paying his subcontractors. We found that out like several months in. We found out that he was purposefully lying to us and deceiving us with regards to the project. And it was just a whole bunch of other things. And after I think like 4 to 5 months, we finally decided to just let go of him because of all the reasons that we listed. So fast forward a couple months after that, we got our second contractor, and this contractor we actually found from Kijiji. But they were a contractor that had previously helped us before, so we kind of trusted them a little. We kind of like built a relationship ahead of time. Initially, they were very good. Like they helped us with most of the project. We were pretty much nearly completed the
subcontractor.
Yeah, we pretty much done all the mechanical parts of the duplex, like the HVAC, electric, and all that stuff. But what led us to firing these guys was essentially how they reacted to COVID.
Okay.
So there was like a period of time in 2020 where everything was locked down, and it was understandable that nobody was allowed to do these residential projects. We didn't even want them to come into our house, and that was fine. But what happened was, as soon as the lockdowns were lifted, we saw like a huge drop in their work ethic. Like, for example, they were just less communicative, less transparent. They stopped coming into our property. And we could see that like a lot of his tools and equipment was getting like taken away week by week. So we knew that something was up. And what really, really ticked us off was that they started asking for additional money for things that we didn't think was necessary at all, especially for the duplex that we wanted. And just after a couple of months, we actually just stopped hearing back from them. So this was during Christmas. They essentially ghosted us, and we haven't heard back since December.
Okay.
And so now, despite these setbacks, in this renovation period. So what's motivating you guys to keep going and to I guess not give up hope on this project that you guys started?
It's true. He gave up partially.
Yeah,
I would say that.
I think that it was like part of me was just getting really, really. I was getting a lot of work from school as well, and because I'm coming up to my last year, there's a lot of like thesis work that I had to get done. So I kind of like pushed away the project a little bit and left Melissa to most of it. But I think what kept us going was just, we had a lot of friends who really helped us through all this. Even now, a lot of the people that we're bringing in as subcontractors, they were like people that we, met through networks and through this entire experience of going through two terrible contractors. So a lot of it was just, these people were like, hey, this is very simple to do. We can help you do it, and things like that.
Yeah, I think like what really helped like myself, I don't know, it was like, oh, I gotta finish this, right? Like it's almost like pride at this point. Like we gotta finish this. And I think like he mentioned, there was a lot of support afterwards. I think like joining Cashflow Tribe and like the mastermind, and like you start getting all these referrals from other people, and that kind of kept us going. To be fair, also what kept us going was that we kind of overpaid this contractor, so you're kind of like still moving with them at that point. So you kind of go with the same like flow as them.
Right.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
So you fired the second contractor. So when I'm just going to go back to a little bit the hiring process. So there's two contractors. Is there something different that you feel like you would have done, knowing what you know now? Maybe some red flags that, maybe you saw at the beginning, but you're like, oh no, it should be fine. What would you have done differently to hire these contractors?
You want to go?
So first of all, I would say to always do your due diligence with these people. Like even though our first contractor was from a referral, we kind of just trusted that because, we trusted the people who gave us the referral. But that was our mistake because we didn't actually look into the contractor that the guy had recommended. And we found out that it was only recently that he started to, have financial troubles and all these other things that caused him to do all these shortcuts and all that stuff.
On that note, too, I think it was even when, like, let's say our second contractors gave us the referrals to call, we actually never called them. Still, regardless, I think it was like we thought to ourselves, oh, we trust them. Like we say, we trust them, so let's just not call who they are, who the referrals are. So I think just still doing the process that you said you would do, or putting a process in place so that you're like, okay, I do this for everyone, like regardless of who you are, I do this process. So let me just do it and just keep it healthy.
Yeah, a lot of it was like we made very emotional decisions when a project this big should have been more of a logical decision.
Right. I totally agree with you. Like if you have a certain process to hire, regardless of maybe your gut feeling or what somebody says and what kind of work they may have done for somebody else, it is very important to do your own due diligence. We have been very fortunate with her last project where our contractors, they were on time, finished pretty much on time. I would say within budget, just a little over, but that's to be expected. But we had a similar situation in where my parents had a contractor. It was a referral, and we also had to let them go because we paid them the whole money, practically, and they didn't finish, the project, and we just didn't have the confidence that they would actually finish the project, even though they were offering to still go, even though we weren't paying. Yeah, it's like, well, we reached the budget that you said. But so that's definitely doing the due diligence is very important. One thing that I also found important is just like, I'm not sure if your contractor had a web page or whatnot, but I felt like that was important to have, because if you're not doing a good job, then I can actually post reviews, right? And that means a lot. I'm sure everybody wants great reviews, and I'm sure you're also working for those reviews. So it kind of gives me confidence that if you're not doing a good job, then I will be, telling the world, right? Sort of thing. So sometimes looking for a website is a good, is a good way to vet them. And one thing that we had, maybe we didn't do necessarily, but I think going to another one of their workplaces, like if they've done another work, actually going there, walking through, maybe even talking to the owner if they allow that, just to see like what the communication is like, I think that could go a long way. Maybe the owner will tell you certain things, be like, oh yeah, they do good work, but they're super slow. So something, right?
Sure.
So that definitely.
I think that's a good point. I think that's one of our, like you mentioned, that social media part and like the website part, just having a presence. And actually, to be fair, both of ours didn't have any presence at all. So that's why that's one of our things now. It's like, yes, some people don't have that, but like for our criteria, I think that is like something we are going to be looking for.
Yeah.
When you guys got a quote initially, was it a written quote? Did they break it down, or was it kind of like, oh, it should cost approximately this?
It was a written quote, and they did break it down.
Okay, good.
They gave us 3 plans. So he gave us the like just the basement plan, the basement, and plus part of the upstairs, and then the full gut of the whole place.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, listening to what you're saying, it does sounds like, I would trust them too. They go through all this, give you a plan and, a good quote and whatnot. But, I guess things happen.
Yeah. Like I was just going to say, like, we did find out afterwards, like we weren't just the only couple that kind of get like scammed. Like even a realtor, like an investor realtor also used him and was getting scammed through it all. And
we pretty much had like an email chain full of people. There was like, like 10 couples who were all played by the same contractor.
And where did you find that email chain? Like,
how did you guys get?
They actually reached out to us. I can't remember how we found that, but
they found out that we were one of his clients also. And then so we were put into this like email chain of we hate blank. We were gonna make T-shirts too, and that was great.
Yeah, that would definitely ruin their reputation for sure. They're not gonna go, on like this in Kitchener at least.
Yeah. Now, I'm glad that you guys are in a position where you guys can joke about it right now. But other than eventually completing this project, are you guys thinking about doing any other projects with real estate investing? Not necessarily a conversion, but just what are your future goals?
Yeah, so right now, Melissa actually works for a. You want to talk about it? Wholesaling?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So she works for a wholesaling company right now, and she's doing the dispositions. She's a dispositions person for them. And essentially, we're planning to kind of leverage that to find ourselves another deal to potentially, like you said, probably not as big as a duplex conversion, but something that would require some renovations to actively appreciate the price, and then potentially Airbnb-ing it or just renting it out. And I think this kind of just like our first project. I think that one of the issues that we had was we didn't have any renovation experience.
Yes.
And we immediately started off with a project that was like nearly 6 figures in cost.
Yeah.
Right? So people would be giving us like ideas about how to get this done or how to get that done, and we would have no idea what like any other if there was any other ways to do it, or if this is like a standard. And so now that we have a better idea of how this stuff works, I think we're just gonna probably like do cosmetic renovations at first, and then kind of build on to those bigger ones in the future. But the plan is to have another project or two in 2021.
Okay. Do you feel like in terms of renovation, I know definitely for us when, because we've gone through renovations, we understand a little bit more the lingo. Before I would just knock and nod and smile and like, oh yeah, yeah, for sure. This and that. So do you feel like you're, even though you want to do cosmetic, but do you feel like you could take on maybe a project that is between cosmetic and the type of project you have going on right now, just because of that knowledge that you have acquired?
Yeah, I think so. I think like most of renovations isn't like particularly difficult. It's mostly just very like time consuming, and you have to know like you have to bring the right people in, and that's about it. Like right now, we're finishing up a lot of the renos for our current project, and we've learned probably most of what we're doing just through like YouTube and through just like talking to people who've done this before. It's not rocket science. You just have to put the effort and time in, and I think it's something that you can learn.
You know what?
No, I do suggest like we are hiring out like framing, some things that we wouldn't touch ourselves, like electrical also. So we wouldn't touch everything.
Exactly. Well, I'm glad you guys brought up some really key points right there. First of all, you guys brought up talk about being resourceful as far as watching YouTube videos and getting information from other people who's done it before. But also, I think the main thing that you mentioned that at least resonated with me is the fact that you really want to be in a position where you are you want to start up small and then build yourself up to a level where you can do these bigger renovations. And then adding on to that, it's very important to have your team. Once you come across, now mind you, at least you were able to kind of like weed off the bad contractors, and then hopefully now you'll be able to find a good one. And then once you have that good one, then you want to like hold on to that person for future project moving forward.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
So yeah, like adding on to that, like starting off small is also a good thing because for a lot of the smaller projects, a lot of contractors, they don't actually want to get paid until after they're done.
Good. Yes. Yeah.
But with the bigger projects, they always require like a much larger deposit. And so if you're like a newbie at this, it sometimes might be easier to see somebody finish first before you give them the cash.
Yes. Good point. Very good point.
Yeah. And this also helps you to, like if they can do a small thing correctly, they could probably, do something else. Like
it builds that trust.
You build that trust, and you can see their experience and their skills, which is also a good thing.
Yeah, no, I didn't know about the smaller projects that you had to you pay at the end. I just knew that for us, it's like there's definitely a schedule. When you pay, up front, you pay a certain amount, and then when it's maybe like 25% completed, 50%, etc. One thing that I have heard is a friend of ours. I think the contractor wanted a little bit more before, let's say, the 75% point. And then that's when you start wondering why, it's like, well, you're not at 75%. Why do you need 75%, of the total amount? So that sometimes kind of raises a red flag. Like, why do I need to give, extra?
I think like when they start asking for that, you start, like you mentioned, like ask why, what do you need it for? I know when we did it, like when they said, oh, we need 30% now. It's like, okay, here. And then we didn't bother asking at that point because we were like, oh, it kind of makes sense, right? But I think definitely just kind of getting that clarity and it makes sense. You're like, okay, this makes sense. Why?
Do you think you would yourself hire subcontractors in the past as opposed to, and managing the whole project yourself? Or would you still hire a big contractor just knowing how to vet them a little bit better?
I think for us, like subcontractors, we both like to have control. And the problem with hiring a general contractor is like you almost lose all the control of the project. And you have to rely on one person to get everything done.
Right.
Plus, like I know Melissa, she really enjoys like, doing the planning and stuff, and just picking out designs and all that stuff. So I think for us, like definitely doing it subcontractor by subcontractor was very, very beneficial.
I think also like if we could go back, another option for us might have been like partnering.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Because we did think about that at the beginning, but like most people, we didn't want to split because we assumed you hire a contractor, they figure it out. Like, how hard is this? Little did we know, but I think I think that was something that we learned from. Like, like if we partnered up with, let's say, like Matt Piche, because he's in Kitchener-Waterloo as well, and he did exactly like duplex conversions, and like he would have just taught us the process and the people. We would have met them, and it would have made everything way more smooth, I think. So
yeah.
Okay. Would you still suggest that people get into real estate investing regardless of the mistakes and the obstacles you have gone through?
Yeah, of course, right? Well, I mean, I would say for us, like having this mistake early on was actually a really good thing. Like initially we planned to have much bigger projects in the future, and being able to make all of these mistakes and learn from them, just in our like first and second year of real estate investing, I think was pretty good. We learned a lot through this entire process.
We learned like the contractors. We had mold, asbestos. We're going through a lawsuit right now. It's like it was a lot of different things that most, I guess, like 26-year-olds would not go through. It was very fun though.
Okay. And that lawsuit, is it against one of your contractors that you initiated?
Actually, the funny thing is, they initiated on us, the first contractor.
So our first contractor, pretty much they sued us, saying that they finished the entire project and we didn't pay them.
Yeah, they said they added $90,000 value into our house when it was like all demoed. And we're like, what?
Wow.
We literally didn't provide any like pictures or any proof of his claims.
Yeah.
But he hired a paralegal to get this done, and then we were just like, "What?" Like, we sent they sent us like like a 4-page document, and we sent them back like a 40-page document.
There you go.
Wow.
That's
awesome.
We're going through that right now.
That was something I think at that time too. Like, we didn't want to hire like a paralegal or a lawyer to do it. So we actually ended up doing all the paperwork ourselves.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would recommend someone doing that, if they were to. Like at that point, it was really stressful. Every weekend, we would be like writing it up, rereading it, writing like points 1 to like 100. Like, I think sometimes it might have just been better to like maybe hire a paralegal at that point, give them all the evidence, and they could help us write that up. But that was still like a learning experience.
Yeah, I bet.
It was something.
I bet. Well, I don't think I've ever heard a story where you had to fire 2 contractors, mold, asbestos, and get sued. In the same
on the same project.
On the same project.
In the same project.
So
it's funny. Like when we first started this project too, like we were hearing where some projects went for 2 years. We're like, how does a project like last 2 years? That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then look at us now. Like, it's like, oh, we're one of the examples now.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't think it can happen to you, and then when it does, you're like, oh, I get it now.
I see it. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad at least with you guys have definitely worked on your mindset and your perspective, because you guys are looking at the silver lining. And as much as you've had all these bumps in the roads, there are also a lot of learning experiences in there, and you're able to grow from those experiences.
Mm-hmm. And you're still together, which is the main part.
Right.
I don't know. After like working with him on renovations, I was like, hey,
if you can go through this together, I'm pretty sure you can. Any other obstacles you guys can go through. Yeah. That's amazing. Well, honestly, I think a lot of people will get a lot of value from your experience. If it can save one person from not going through the same thing, and even just one headache, then I think this video will definitely have done its purpose. Yeah.
I do hope like no one that's just starting off goes through this exact process. If you can, please avoid it at all costs.
Right.
Seriously. If anybody, I know you guys are still investing and you guys are investing well, you guys are in Kitchener-Waterloo. Who knows where you invest in the future. But if somebody wants to reach out to you guys and ask questions, how can they do so?
Ask questions. What are you talking about? No, I'm just kidding.
Or just say good video.
Don't ask questions. Like we don't have time for this. Well, they could DM me, message me on Instagram, or like just reach out on Facebook.
Okay, and what are your
tags? Better at replying back. So what's on? At Investing with Mel.
Okay, that's on Instagram.
Yes.
And on Facebook.
Melissa Lee.
Melissa Lee.
You might have trouble with that one.
Yeah, Mike.
There's too many of those.
There might be a few.
Yeah.
They might have to reach out through Instagram to find you. Awesome. Well, we'll definitely include those tags in the video so that if somebody wants to just say hi and just say props for continuing your project and even share what they have been through, then they can reach out to you guys through those.
Great.
Platforms. Awesome. Perfect. Well, thank you again for accepting to be on our show. We really appreciate the conversation, and I'm sure we'll connect again very soon.
Thank you so much for having us.
It's been a pleasure.
All right.
All right, great. Good job, guys.
All right. And for our viewers, don't forget to live your truth.